What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from Zoom, and this time we are here with Michael Sweet of the almighty Stryper. Thank you for being here, man. It's great to have you here.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. I do not look like I'm in a rock band right now, but that's okay. We'll make it work.
Yeah, we'll definitely make it work. Again, the car interviews are always interesting. It's kind of like its own little aesthetic. So, you see everybody's
It
studio
is.
all the
It's
time.
the thing I love about it is it sounds like a studio in here, like an ISO booth. It's dead and quiet. It's nice.
Yep, absolutely. But we got this new album, The Final Battle, coming out October 21st. This album is absolutely awesome. For people who haven't heard the album yet, though, was this sort of like a continuation of what we heard off Even the Devil Believes, or was this meant to kind of be like a new beginning for Stryper in a way?
There's never a plan with any album. It's not like I sit down before I start writing and think like, okay, this album needs to be this way and that album needs to be that way. I just start doing it, start writing, and whatever comes out, whatever flows, that's pretty much what winds up happening. If there's a song that I'm not feeling, I'm not tapping my foot to, there might be a throwaway song or two here and there. But for the most part, with this album, we were going through health issues and whatnot, me with my eye and everything. And it was an interesting time trying to get around that, trying to figure out how I was going to write around that and how I was going to record around that. Once everything worked out, obviously, it was a perfect plan because it literally to the day, in terms of scheduling, it worked perfectly. Thank God. But, I thought we were going to have to postpone the album, put it off for a while. I was really nervous about that. I did not want to do that. I don't like doing that ever. But I didn't have to. We didn't have to. And here we are talking about it. It's done. I think it's one of our best. I say that all the time. And people say, he always says that. But, if you know me, if you hang out with me, you know that I don't say anything that I don't mean. And I'm a man of my word. And when I listen to the album, I get that sort of excitement, that sense of excitement out of it, that to me, to my ears, the way it feels, the way it sounds, I feel like we're improving the process with each album. And I really do believe that it's our best to date. I really do.
I couldn't agree with you more. And when you look at the evolution of Stryper, when you go all the way back to the Yellow and Black Attack, all the way to now, was this evolution that you're taking, was this always the direction that Stryper was intending to go into? Was this always the vision that you had for Stryper in a way, or did kind of everything fall into place over the years?
I think everything's just fallen into place. It's not like, I'm going to be honest. I'm like I said, a man of my word. It's not like, we were sitting down with visions, coming up with a plan for the next 40 years. It just wasn't like that. It was just a matter of Robert was always the visual guy and the guy who was always hard at work on the visuals, and that goes for the artwork back in the day. That goes for the clothing design. That goes for the stage design. Rob was that guy. And then I was the musical guy. While Rob was painting drums and taping guitars, I was in the corner writing songs. So I was the musical guy, he was the visual guy, and it's always been that way. Now, in recent times, that's kind of changed. Our visual guy now is a guy named Stan Decker. He takes care of all the artwork. Lisa and I send him ideas, and he comes up with these brilliant concepts and what you see on the album cover. So really incredible. And in terms of the staging and whatnot, that's really based on management and what we can afford to fit into a trailer, and take with us, travel with. It all comes down to that. I wish we were back in the glory days where we could put on a huge show in an arena with all the crazy yellow and black. We had signs, we had all sorts of things going on. But those days are few and far between, and we are where we're at, and we're happy about that. We're just thrilled to still be here and able to perform and produce and continue on. We're thrilled.
And we're very thankful that you're continuing on as well and always giving us new music to really enjoy. And when it comes to like these sort of ideas for the album, especially on a lyrical standpoint, could a lyrical idea maybe also help guide the hand with regards to how the album will sound in a way, or does there always need to be music before any lyrical idea could come to fruition?
If lyrics were written at the same time music was written or before music was written, I would say yes. But because the way my style of writing is very unorthodox and not the norm, I write. What happens with me is I go into my studio, I turn on the gear, and I start playing around with riff ideas. Uh, take like the riff from Divider, down, oh, down, 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 oh, down, 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 that riff. I'll start playing something like that. And then once I do, and I'm kind of doing this with my head and feeling it, I'll go into my computer, Easy Drummer software, and I'll find a loop that feels really good, a pattern, drum pattern that feels right with that riff. And once I lock into that, that's when I create the song in Easy Drummer and then the song musically speaking. And usually the riff and the loop, drum groove is about a 10-minute process. And then the songwriting arrangement of the song itself is about a 2 to 4 hour process. And then once I have that, I'm usually, as I'm creating the song, I'm usually humming for the chorus a melody with the lyric. And a lot of time that lyric winds up being the actual title or the lyric of the song that all the other lyrics are based around. So it's a very weird way of writing, but it works for me. And after I have that, after 4 hours, I have a song, I record it onto my phone and I send it out to the guys. And the next day I do another song. I send it out to the guys until there's 11 songs or 12 songs.
That's a very real fascinating way, and I never got an answer like that before. So it's really cool to hear such a unique way, saying like, oh, it always starts off with a riff or whatever. It seems like you're able to have like a very organic approach to it. When it comes to getting that creative energy and that like inspiration to create, whether it will be for Stryper or your solo work, do you almost kind of like need to put yourself in a specific place in order for the ideas to come to fruition, or does inspiration just strike when you least expect it?
Yeah, that's another strange thing about me is you would think I'd have to, travel far away to a mountaintop and be in a tent somewhere for the inspiration, like a lot of these writers talk about. And I think that's great. It's awesome. But I don't work that way. The way I work best is under pressure. So what I tend to do, and I'm not proud to say this, but I tend to procrastinate when it comes to writing albums. If I know I've got 4 months to write an album, I will literally put it off until 2 weeks before we start recording. And that's when I start writing the album. And that I have found, some people say that's crazy. Why do you do that? Why are you doing that? And it works for me. The being under pressure thing, the minute I go in 2 weeks before the studio, before the guys fly out, literally, I go into my studio and I start writing. And oddly enough, with every album, the songs just come very quickly. There's something about the way God made me and what's in my DNA and the way my mind works, where I'm able to get it done. And I don't feel that I'm compromising. Some people feel, I've heard people say, some fans say, why don't you allow more time? It would be better. I disagree. I don't think it would be any better. I've spent 2 and 3 years on a song and wound up throwing that song away. So it's not about the time that goes into the song. It's about the feel and the, as you said, that passion that goes in to the song from the moment, inspiration in the moment. And that moment comes quickly for me. I don't have to travel far away or lock myself in a room and have peace and quiet. I could do that on a plane in an airport. I could do it in a noisy subway. It doesn't matter where it is. If I've got my little travel amp, and my headphones and my little travel guitar, I'm good to go. And I've written many songs that way. So I'm very happy and blessed in the sense that I can write that way. And the well hasn't dried up yet. Those songs keep coming. I think about the next album, like, oh, crap. oh man, I start thinking about it and like, how am I going to write that? And I go into this mentality with every album thinking, oh no, but then it always works out in every single album. So I'm very blessed that I feel God's given me a gift to write songs. That's probably my strongest gift, I would say, is writing.
Yeah. And writing and playing is almost two completely separate talents as well. But does the process or the mindset like change when you are writing for Stryper versus your solo material? Does the creative process or the mindset at all change, or is there a different form of expression throughout it, or is it all completely the same approach?
A little bit. I mean, with my solo stuff, I feel like I have more to prove. Like I need to prove myself more. I don't know why. It's probably not necessary, but you get those comments from people over the years that take root. You try not to let them take root, but they do. Like, his stuff isn't his solo stuff isn't as good, or his solo stuff isn't as heavy, or all those comments. And I always feel like I've got something to prove with solo stuff. But then at the end of the day, I realize like just be myself. The beauty of solo albums and the freedom is the fact that I can do whatever I want. With Stryper, there's more of a structural plan. Like we've got to stick to the format to a degree. We don't want to alienate ourselves from the fan base too much. On the solo stuff, I can do whatever I want. I really don't care. If I want to do a pop song with a saxophone, I'll do it. I don't care.
That'll be that you can make that happen. Let's. I would love to hear a Michael Sweet like jazz album or R&B. Maybe you can make that happen.
There's one song that's close. It's called Tomorrow Tonight. I recorded it in 1994 on my first solo album, and it's got a saxophone in it. And it's a little more very radio friendly, saxophone-ish, cool song, really good song. But I did a song called Coming Home a few albums back. It was a little more country. It had a country vibe to it.
Experimentation is always great for an artist. I've always said comfort is sometimes the worst thing for an artist. I've always said that comfort is like an artistic opioid. It may feel really good, but it's holding you back. So like I think experimentation is always good. And hey, saxophone with what it worked for Hanoi Rocks, I think it could work for you as well.
Man, I love experimenting. Steel guitar, saxophone, you name it. I think I've even used flute on a song or two. I like that freedom of doing solo stuff. And a lot of my solo stuff, the past two albums, have been more along the lines of Stryper albums. And some people have commented and said, well, what's the point? It's similar to Stryper. And the point is I'm still expressing myself and doing what I love to do. And bringing in outside players. I had a different guitar player on every song. That was really fun. And I write all the music for Stryper. So of course, my solo music at times is going to sound similar to Stryper because that's what you're hearing in Stryper is musically speaking, song wise, is Michael Sweet. I think a lot of people think it's almost a naive way of thinking that all bands collaborate together, and it's just not the case always. With Stryper, everyone in the band can write, of course, but everyone writes different styles, and I've written a style that has defined Stryper since 1983. That's what you're hearing with the Stryper songs is Michael Sweet songs, and then Robert, Nas, and at one time Tim, and now Perry. We put the icing on the cake, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely. Do you think like every Stryper album, like the concept or the meaning of it could evolve over time? When we hear "To Hell with the Devil" or "In God We Trust" or "Reborn," I was a little kid when those songs came out. "In God We Trust," I wasn't even born yet. But like when it comes to like all these songs, do you think that they could evolve over time, or do you think that every album more or less should just be a snapshot of who you are at that particular time?
Oh, I think a little bit of both. They are a snapshot of who we are at that particular time, but also they certainly can evolve. I like hearing, we do different versions of our own songs. When we go out and do acoustic shows, we do different versions of certain songs. And I think that's really cool. We've done different versions of our own songs on recordings. In God We Trust, as a perfect example. We recorded that in '88, the way you heard it on In God We Trust, and then we re-recorded it and did a more modern version of it. So I think it's really cool to evolve and to try different things and stretch yourself out as a musician, for sure.
Definitely. Definitely going back to what I said about comfort. But here comes the most difficult question of the whole interview. How do you know when you're finished with a song?
I know when I'm finished as with the song, when the clock strikes a certain hour, if that makes any sense. So what I mean by that is I feel sometimes we spin our wheels and we second guess what we're doing. So often I'll continue working on a song past the time allotted, the time I wanted to spend on it. I go in at noon, I say, hey, I want to be done by 6. I'm done by 4 a lot. Sometimes it's 7 or 8 or 9, I'm not done. And I'm just spinning my wheels. And I'll say, I'll come in tomorrow and finish it. I come in tomorrow and I'm like, you know what? I'm going back to the original way this was at 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon. And I bet you it's going to be better. And I do. And I listen and say, yep, that's what I should have stuck with. So that's what I mean by spinning your wheels. You overthink things so often. You think you're improving things when you're really not. You're just going backwards.
Absolutely. And I'd imagine, too, you kind of want to, like, feel the same way when you finish a song as you do when you start it, right? Because if you work on something for a long time, isn't it kind of, like, hard to sort of, like, maintain that emotion that initially sparked it?
Totally. That's why I am not a fan of demos. Stryper does not do demos. And any label out there that ever asks us to do demos, the answer will be no. We don't do demos because it's so much goes into that first recording, whether it's a demo or a master, and it's really hard to get that back, that passion and that energy. So I want to save that for the actual master recording. And it's very important, and you can suck that right out, the life right out of something very quickly if you spend too much time on it, like guitar solos. I like getting guitar solos in 2 or 3 takes versus sitting there. And I'm not going to lie, we've gotten really bad at that lately, where, whether it's Oz or myself, where you're sitting there punching in and punching in and punching in for an hour trying to fix something, and that's not the way to do things, because you can start to lose the energy, whether that's a solo or a complete track or whatever. It's very important. So the way we track Robert, same thing. We want to capture that whole take, and then if there's one spot that's a little wiry or a little loose, we punch in and tighten up that one spot. But that goes for songwriting process as well. Don't overthink and don't spend so much time on it that you're draining and sucking the joy and the life right out of it.
Yeah, definitely. And when it comes to playing live, is there at all maybe a similar energy that's channeled into your live presence as you are when you are songwriting? Or do you consider playing live and songwriting almost 2 completely separate forms of expression?
2 separate forms of expression. Live is in the moment. Once the moment's gone, it's gone. Songwriting, however, is eternal. You're writing a song that's going to last and live forever. A performance doesn't. It's here and gone. It's up on YouTube, sadly, for everyone to hear all the mistakes. But it's here and gone. It's one moment. And you realize that what matters at the end it is the song, because the song lives on. And when we're dead and gone, and we all will be, the song will still live on for other generations to hear. The performance will not.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, maybe that changed a little bit with the advent of cameras and stuff like that. But I think you are right. Like, even if somebody captures that on film, nobody's ever going to be able to capture that on film again. So.
And not only that, but I mean, capturing a performance on film is entirely different than being there.
Yeah.
Listening to a song is obviously listening to a song, but recording on your phone a live performance is nothing like being there in person. And that's what I mean. The experience of being there live in person, it's here and gone only for the select few that were there in attendance.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, forgive the rather vulgar analogy, but I've always said that like a video of a live performance is almost kind of like listening to pornography on the radio. There's like no point of it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. Otherwise, you're just going to hear horrible jazz music, you know?
I mean, or the classic "Careless Whisper," or Barry, or some Barry White. Can't go wrong with that, right? um, but when it comes to also going back to songwriting, when it comes to either writing the music or the lyricism, is there a lot of observation? Are you looking at a lot of external sources for inspiration, or is it all coming from within?
Not, it all comes from within, but also ultimately at the end of the day, it comes from my faith, and biblical teachings, what's in the Bible. Like there's so many times when I'm hung up on a lyric or I have no inspiration for a lyric, I'll open the Bible and boom, there it is. It's really amazing. And I've gone on record saying that all the answers to life are in the Bible, and they are, but we just don't read it to get the answers. We try to find the answers on our own, and then we wind up becoming a pretty messed up world in many ways. And when it's so simple, if we were to just read and apply the answers that are in the Word, in the Bible, we'd be our society would be far better off. But regardless, that's just speaking for myself. I'm going down a different path there. I don't want to get preachy. For me, that's what works.
Well, is it
to
I was about to ask, is it almost like your interpretation of what you're seeing in the Bible? Is it like your experience with salvation, or is it almost kind of like an informative, like a musical demonstration of it?
It's both. I mean, it definitely from experience in my own personal life, but also actual stories in the Bible. Like, for example, the final battle, the imagery on the cover, that's basically the Battle of Armageddon, is what that's supposed to portray. And the way you see Christ on the horse, the center image, is described in the book of Revelation. And it's, if you go read that, you'll see, oh yeah, look at there's that. Oh yeah, that's what it said, that sort of thing. That's often applied not only with our artwork, but with song lyrics as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like there's a whole presentation behind it as well. I think it's almost its own individual. Like, I've been to like a bunch of churches for many different events, and I go into Europe. I always have to see at least like 10 cathedrals in every country that I go to, and like it always is. It is always like a different experience when you go to a different cathedral. Like Notre Dame was very different from the, I forgot the name of it sadly, but the main cathedral in Stockholm where I was at. It's like a different visual imagery. There's a different source of it, and I feel that way with almost Stryper albums. I've always said like every album is almost kind of like its different cathedral in a way.
It is. It really is, and that's the amazing thing about Stan is he's able to. It's a theme. It's a series. If you look at every album cover, but yet each album cover has its own signature and its own stamp, and they're very unique, but yet they're very similar, and they all tie together. It's really cool how he's been able to accomplish that, and we're very proud to have had Stan for I think the last 5 album covers, starting with No More Hell to Pay and now with the Final Battle. Might be 6. I lose count, but he's amazing. He's brilliant, and hopefully the music is as brilliant. I can't wait to see 1 week away from what everybody else is going to think once they hear the album as a whole. It's hard to tell when you hear a song here and a song there. I miss the days when people could go buy the whole album and listen to the whole album. Those days are long gone, but you know what? Let's see what everyone thinks about it. Hopefully they're going to love it.
Definitely. And the final question I wanted to ask you actually is, because your album, the Stryper catalog, always does tell a story kind of like that. Do you feel like maybe your albums could almost be like a series, like almost kind of like in a cinematic way? Like if somebody really wants to listen to Soldiers Under Command and get the full concept of that, they have to go back and listen to the Yellow and Black Attack. Should people go back and Even the Devil Believes before listening to the Final Battle, etc.?
Totally. Absolutely. And again, as I said earlier, that wasn't planned out. And it's pretty amazing how it worked out that way, though. And absolutely 100%. You can go back to the Yellow and Black Attack and then fast forward to the final battle, and you can find and see and hear how they tie together. Same with Soldier, same with To Hell, all that stuff. Now, it did take us a while to kind of find ourselves again. I was experimenting with Reborn, which was supposed to be a solo album originally, so obviously and rightfully so. That's why I was experimenting so much. And then Murder by Pride was a little lighter, great album, but different. And then I feel like we found ourselves again on the covering, oddly enough, the cover album. And that's where we went back to our roots and all the bands we grew up with. And then when we got to No More Hell to Pay, that was like full blown, full circle. Stryper's back. Here we are. This is the Stryper classic sound. This is what we should be doing.
Absolutely. No More Hell to Pay, I thought was like really like almost the staple, like almost kind of, and that title I think was just perfect. I don't think you could have had a better title to represent that sort of coming back to fruition.
Totally. Absolutely. 100%. And then you go on with Fallen, and then Goddamn Evil, then Even the Devil Believes, and then now the Final Battle. And if you had the time and you were to listen to all those albums back to back, you would hear how they're similar in some ways, but yet completely original and different. They have their own thing, but yet it's 100% Stryper. You know, you can't deny once you hear the guitar tone. I think that's the key. That's always the key. The minute you hear the tone, most people can say that's Stryper, because we have a very signature, unique tone, love it or hate it. And then obviously the drums kick in. Rob's got his own style, his own sound. And then those vocals, you know, the high notes, the background vocals. It's a very signature thing that Stryper has. Again, love it or hate it. Some people love it, some people hate it. It doesn't matter to me. What matters is that we are happy doing what we're doing. And we enjoy popping in the CD and going, yes, that's how we want to sound. And the people that get it, we're blessed by. And the people that don't, we're blessed by. Absolutely. You know, I think a lot of times people that don't get us, they're not educated. They don't know, they haven't even listened enough to know if they like it or not. And they don't give us the time of day because of what we stand for. It's like, that Christian stuff, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, every artist is their own thing. And, you know, I think everybody should express what they want. If that's, you know, art is an experience and you're bringing an experience to share. If people resonate with it, that's great. And people do resonate with it. And if they don't, that's okay. That's the beauty of art, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. And can I say hello to somebody?
Of course.
To the Christian hating site Blabbermouth. Can you mind if I say hello to them very quickly?
I don't care. I mean, if they pick this up though, that's on you, not me.
I'm kidding, man. I appreciate Blabbermouth, and I feel like we kind of joust back and forth. And I was just reading a Blabbermouth article, I think that came out yesterday about myself, about tuning down. I think they mentioned something about the fact that we tune down, which is old news. But I don't know who runs Blabbermouth, but, you know, I think secretly they're a Stryper fan, if you want my honest opinion.
I'll ask them if they pick this up. But before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today and for a really good conversation. It was really good to go in depth with the songwriting and creative process. Just with this new album coming out, The Final Battle, anything else you'd like to promote in terms of tours or new music in the works?
Oh, man, there's so much going on. There's the new Stryper album coming out, obviously, and then a new Sweet Lynch album coming out. Got a couple final things to do on that, tweak-wise, finishing work. And that's coming out next year. I think we're starting on a new Iconic album sometime next year. And then I've got 2 solo albums one in the can, one that's done, and one that's musically done. One's inspirational, one's more hard rock metal. And there's just so much happening, man. My head's spinning. I'm trying to stop my head from spinning so I can kind of land on the ground and catch myself here and catch my breath and maybe even take a vacation. That would be nice.
Right. We all need, especially with you're always pumping out new material left and right. Like maybe a vacation wouldn't hurt, right?
I think a vacation would be good. I would enjoy that. Now the problem is if I take vacation, it's going to be a long vacation. So that's the thing that worries me. Like I'm talking, I would take a 2-year vacation easily. Maybe, who knows? Maybe that'll do me some good. Who knows?
Fair enough. But thank you so much, everybody. Michael Sweet of Stryper, The Final Battle, out October 21st. Be sure to pick it up. We will see you next time on Heavy New York.